Tell me, are you Satoru Gojo because you have the infinity? Or do you have the infinity because you're Satoru Gojo? What's up guys, Alfonso here, and here we are to do a discussion on whether or not Satoru Gojo, who was known once as the strongest, and is to be the strongest sorcerer of the modern day, at least for now, we need to discuss whether or not that man was in fact backpacked, carried, babied, whichever adjective or verb you would like to use to describe. Was Satoru Gojo just a weakling hiding behind a mathematical concept made into reality? Let's cover all of Gojo's battles and determine whether or not such a dark and twisted fate is the case for Satoru Gojo. Let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. What's up guys, Alfonso here. Fun fact, I have it on me, and I keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact, if you are somehow new and you do not know what the infinity is, this is the infinity. May not be able to tell, I'm not sure, but the sword is not making contact with my hand. No matter how hard I push this sword, it is not making contact. That is the infinity put into its most simple form. The ability to halt, but not necessarily halt, to make sure that no damage, no attack can ever come to Satoru Gojo as long as the technique is activated, and by the time of the modern narrative, the technique is always activated unless very, very specific conditions are met, such as post-domain fatigue and or, well, certain other factors that kick in that we'll talk about in these battles that we need to talk about. But why am I making this? Obviously, this seems like a weird thing to be making after, 236, where a certain someone fell down some stairs, putting it lightly. They fell down some stairs, let's put it that way. Yeah, it's Gojo, and he's gone now. So naturally, the retrospective of his character, his battles, everything about Gojo is now being put in. Where's my English go? I swear I can speak, guys. I swear I can, but sometimes the words just don't be worded. But I want to analyze pretty much every part of the character and see, well, is he really the strongest because he's Satoru Gojo? Well, clearly he isn't, because, well, he's the strongest in the modern day. It's a long, complicated thing. The main reason I'm asking this question is because I've seen the question going around a lot recently in the community, with Gojo's end being laid out, and admittedly a good chunk of the fandom believing he'll return, the other chunk of the fandom, which I tend to leave on the sideline thinking he probably shouldn't, even if he could. The question is, was he actually just carried by a really, really broken ability, or was he actually strong enough himself? And the best way to analyze that is to determine, well, let's go through all his battles and see if he's actually carried or not. Notably, I do want to cover literally all of his battles, because in the modern day, he has like 4? 5? Against One Finger Sukuna, against Jogo, against the Coat Hanger Man, against Hanami, technically, if you really want to count that as a fight, against Jogo, against Jogo's crew, and against Sukuna. I guess you can count Uraume as well. But we'll cover every single one of the battles from his youth as well, considering that is when the Infinity was a more prominent aspect to his character, in terms of it was not simply a passive thing, it was something that he needed to maintain. So let's hop right into it. Starting with the earliest battle in the Satoru Gojo timeline, the battle against the organization that was specifically going for Rico. Was Satoru Gojo carried by the Infinity there? I mean, you can definitely argue when he was against Bayer, the strongest that organization had to offer, the main thing that stood out about that battle is the fact that he was using the Infinity to essentially ignore all the knives that were coming at him. So on this little tally mark, you know what, I might as well, I'm actually going to make a little tally to say carried or not carried. Hold on one moment. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Give me 1 second. This shall be one that is going to be chalked up on the board for Gojo being carried. The reason I say it is because he doesn't really use any other ability during that fight. Especially in the manga, that fight gets mostly off-screened. Like, we don't actually see it. And I believe even in the anime, I did not actually watch Hidden Inventory, but that is going to be one that is going to be chalked up to it. Notably, it's really because he does not use a single other ability in that fight. If he used another ability, then maybe we could argue that, you know, oh, well, he wasn't actually carried, it's just that he was heavily biased for it. But I don't think he did. Once again, that's a very, very short fight. So allow me to whip up this T chart real quick, this tally chart, and make one to prove why Satoru Gojo is in fact carried or not. And we'll do the grand total. I'll give you my actual thoughts about whether or not I think he's carried by the end of this video. So carry or not carry. So the first one, the first major one, we're going to chalk it up to a carry. That is way too light. Maybe because I'm just using the light. I'm going to do this. And you know what? I will even sack the page. Will I sack the page? I'm going to sack the page. Let me do this. So the next major battle we need to talk about when it comes to young Gojo versus anyone and everyone is the bombastic bagman known as the clone user. Now, notably, I do believe the clone user is actually a bit underrated, solely because of their curse technique. I think the curse technique is really, really neat. Does that show better? That shows better. There we go. Perfect. Unfortunately, the pencil is not good enough for this one. We're going to have to turn to that guy with the Sharpie marker. But with that being the case, the next battle is also, unfortunately, kind of sort of carried by the Infinity in the sense that the clones are useless because of the neutral limitless. However, Gojo does use other abilities in that battle, and it's very clear by how he interacts with the cloning curse user that there's pretty much no hope for the guy anyway. Even if Gojo didn't have the Infinity, he would have lost to Blue. Gojo was literally experimenting on him. You can definitely say that that confidence for experimentation comes from the fact that he has the Infinity, and thusly he doesn't have to worry about the combating him because he would never be able to break through it. So, you know what? Once again, since I am going to be building a case why he was not carried, let me put another carry on the board. So we are now 2-0. For Satoru Gojo being not carried by the Infinity. He does seem pretty hard carried right now. And the next major fight, you know it. I know it. We all know it. Yeah, it's going to be Toji Fushiguro versus Satoru Gojo round 1. I'm splitting it into 2 rounds because the results definitely differ. He lost the fight. So I don't know how much I should chalk this up, but considering the fact that the Infinity was literally not a factor in that fight, for him to still lose, I'm going to chalk that up as a not carry. You may be wondering why this goes under not carry, because, like, shouldn't it count as a carry because he was caught off guard because, you know, Toji shut it down? Technically, yes, but he lost the battle trying to use other abilities. And to be fair, the only reason he was being carried is because he didn't know that Toji had a special thing to, you know, poke right through it. So that is another case where it's not another case where I think he's carried because he wasn't necessarily relying on it too. But I guess, actually, you know what? You can argue he's carried there too. Am I building a case for Gojo being carried by the Infinity? And because, like, he uses that, and since he's so confident in it, he's caught off guard, though. It's really a hard argument whether or not you think, well, would Gojo have been able to react in any other different sort of way to Toji using the chaff grenade method through the fly head and piercing through if he didn't have the Infinity and wasn't heavily relying on it? Because the moment that was taken care of, he lost. Because, you know, Toji was like, hey. And then, boom, the battle was over. So maybe you could actually make a pretty solid argument that he is. I'm gonna have to knock a point off the board. I'm gonna put another one on carry. Teen Gojo is carried a lot by the Infinity. And you may be wondering, 10 minutes into a video talking about carries, well, what do you mean carry in this sense? The main reason I mean carry is that it's the sole reason for why he wins a fight, or it's the heftiest reason for why he wins a battle. And unfortunately, a lot for Teen Gojo, since he only has 2 abilities, 3 if you include hands. He's very much reliant on the neutral limitless, as anyone would be, because, it's a really powerful technique. But luckily enough, for the next battle that we have to cover with Satoru Gojo, I can confidently say it is a not carry, so this tally does actually still end up working. Now I want to erase the pencil, because I can see the pencil, and it's bothering me. I'm sorry. I probably should have used the ruler. But with that being the case, the battle or round 2 against Toji Fushiguro is in fact not a hard carry, at least in my opinion. So that's going to be our first tally under not carry. And why do I say this? Obviously, Toji still had to worry about the Infinity. Obviously, it was still a major fact. Toji never hit him. Ever. Gojo was styling on that man with a bunch of different abilities. Remember, Toji did not lose because of the Infinity. Toji lost because he was getting blitzed and proceeded to get smacked in the face by Hollow Purple. There's no Infinity mattering in that fight. Heck, even the one thing that was meant to shut down the Infinity, I wish I could reach over and like magically pull off, but this is like the perfect thing. Like almost everything in recent Jujutsu Kaisen or major Jujutsu Kaisen is like this size. The only thing that's not is like Soul Split Katana in terms of weapon durability. But like, let's say this is the inverted spear of heaven, it was worthless in the rematch. Like legitimately, he does not tag Gojo once. He does not get in range of tagging Gojo once. Gojo uses a bunch of other abilities in that fight too. He very specifically uses teleportation in order to and get away from Toji. Admittedly only short range, as we see a year later he's still working on the long range teleportation. We see him use red for the first time, something that Toji's unable to react to, which also does not correlate to the Infinity. And of course, the major final thing that absolutely caps off the battle technically is flight, I suppose, but it seems he could do that already. Especially in the anime, you see him flying a whole bunch. But especially, you see it's Hollow Purple, which is also not the Infinity. Essentially, the defensive prowess of the Infinity does not make a difference, whether or not he has it or not in that fight. You could literally take it away, and nothing would change. And if that's not a not carry, I don't know what is. So ultimately, this is where we begin with Gojo being absolutely unneeding of the Infinity. It's just a nice extra little benefit that provides pretty much absolutely nothing to the battlefield. The next major incident we need to talk about is Gojo versus Miguel. And this is where we're going to run into a pattern that you're going to see for a while, that Gojo's fights, they are impacted by his opponent worrying about the Infinity, despite even if it not being there, they would be unable to do anything. Now, don't get me wrong, Miguel is an extremely weird character in terms of just like durability and stuff like that. If you go by the JJK Zero movie, like he eats a lot of hits from Satoru Gojo, presumably blue amp punches as well. And considering those punches are able to like make Yuta Okotsu an entire year later, or maybe not an entire year, but like a while later, or even a little bit beforehand, one of the bulkiest characters of the entire series, straight launch it out his mouth, and also make Hikari Kenji presumably in base, so this isn't as impressive as Yuta, but still an extremely powerful, high grade 1-tier fighter, arguably stronger, pretty much, not even arguably, a character that is much stronger, or not much, maybe that's a little bit glazing, but a character that's stronger than fully healed Demon God Yuji. Yeah, both of those characters, one punch from Gojo was able to make them blah! And you mean to tell me that Miguel was eating not one, not two, not three, not four. He got an entire combo from Gojo, and he was doing relatively fine to the point where after the battle, he's still in one human piece. Very, very impressive. Guess what? The Infinity has nothing to do with that. Especially considering Miguel has... I don't have Black Rope. I can get an extension cord if you want. I have nothing to compare to the Black Rope. But the Black Rope was specifically built in to disrupt Satoru Gojo's techniques. I mean, it did it. Wasn't needed, though. You can literally see that Miguel spends the entirety of the fight running and only uses the Black Rope as something of a self-defense mechanism and or something to try and negate the neutral Infinity, but Gojo in the manga and in the anime simply smacks it away. He's annoyed because it messes with his technique, which is probably giving him flashbacks to Toji, but outside of that, it does literally nothing. And by it, I mean the Infinity. Like, I mean, it's a nice perk to have. It's why some of Miguel's attacks really don't do anything, but once again, Gojo does not need it to win that fight. You remove the Infinity, and the fight does not change in a very similar way to you remove the Infinity from the Toji versus Gojo fight round 2, and the fight doesn't change. Because Miguel was never a threat to Gojo, just like Toji, unfortunately, was never a threat to awaken Gojo. The raw power of the character is pretty much substantiated by this point, especially by JJK Zero when he's fully an adult. He's long since, if not mastered, greatly refined his control of the Limitless, the Sixth Eyes, and pretty much everything that comes with that, and thusly Miguel never, ever, ever was a threat. Speaking of another character who never, ever, ever was a threat, we're going to talk about, well, technically the character en masse became a threat. In fact, it became the threat. But Sukuna Uraume is the next combatant in the next battle we need to talk about on this list on whether or not Satoru Gojo relied on. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot to update the tally. That's another not carry. So right now we are 3-2 leading into another battle, which may just tie up the score because it's barely. I feel weird. The anime extends the battle a lot. Go reread the manga variation of Sukuna One Finger versus Gojo. It's like, I think 3 pages. Like, I don't, like, hold on. I'm even going to double check that right now. I don't think it's really long at all. It is a very, very quick encounter. So allow me to double check that. But once again, unfortunately, One Finger Sukuna just does not have the raw power at the time needed to properly defeat Gojo. The anime especially extends it a whole lot to try and further exemplify Satoru Gojo's dominance, but even in the manga, you can very much tell that outside of maybe one slight interaction where Sukuna does the hand thing and presumably a cleave or dismantle, we don't know it at the time, but presumably cleave or dismantle, and it does absolutely nothing to Satoru Gojo. There's this implication that nothing is really in danger with Satoru Gojo there because the raw power of the character overrides any sort of unique ability that Sukuna may have had access to at the moment. And you can literally see it. Let me double check. Sukuna jumps at him. Gojo teleports behind Sukuna. Sukuna turns, gets grabbed and punched in the face. Sukuna starts twitching, seems to throw out a cleaver dismantle. The dismantle simply bounces off the infinity, but I guess it's for the last interaction. And very specifically, Gojo isn't trying to dodge because he's counting down the last seconds of the battle. So I guess you may be able to argue this shouldn't even count as a fight. Because, like, technically it isn't. But considering it is one of the major encounters, it's even listed on the wiki, where some of the fights I'm talking about are not yet listed on the wiki under Satoru Gojo battles. I'm going to chalk this up as another not carry. Satoru Gojo is just overwhelmingly powerful at the time, and thusly, even when facing the King of Curses freshly incarnated, admittedly only with one finger, it's not too much of a problem for Satoru Gojo. The next major battle we need to talk about is clean cut and clear. It is Jogo versus Gojo. And now you could definitely argue this should go under this bad boy right here in carry, but I'm going to disagree. You can very clearly see throughout the battle Gojo is having fun. He's not really taking Jogo all too seriously. You literally see him drag a 15-year-old to the battlefield and let him experience a domain expansion firsthand because he sees Jogo as so little a threat that he believes that it would ultimately be better to use the special grade curse spirit as a teaching lesson rather than actually take it seriously. So I don't think it counts. However, to make the argument for why it should count, this is our first major introduction to the Infinity. This is the fight where we get it broken down and explained, and everyone who ever read Jujutsu Kaisen realized how much of a headache it would be in cross-verse battles. Until, a recent debuff. But we're going to talk about that debuff in a little bit. It is quite clear. I guess, you know what? Because I don't think it's going to come up much more often. I will chalk this up to a carry because Jogo very specifically does hit Gojo a lot. It's just that, neutral limitless is there. The infinity is there, and thusly nothing is happening to him. But I feel mixed on this one because I want to chalk it up to a carry because it's the Infinity's introduction, right? How are you not going to say a fight that introduces and explains the major ability of the strongest sorcerer of the modern day is not a carry? But at the same time, it's clear, and especially made clear later on in the series during the start of the Shibuya incident, that he doesn't really need it, like, at all. In fact, the utilization of Jogo's technique actually makes him more vulnerable to Satoru Gojo. But once again, for the sake of generosity to the idea of those who believe it's a hard carry, I will chalk this up as another carry. Carry comes back in the lead with one more point. Oh no, I hope I don't fall into another battle where Satoru Gojo absolutely did not need the ability. Yeah, Hanger Man. Do you think he needed the ability against Hanger Man? Do you believe that Hanger Man was actually going to do something to Satoru Gojo? And once again, I'll be generous. I'll fold 2 fights into 1. Technically, he interrupts another fight after he low diss, if not negative diss, Hangerman with a fancy little look in his eye. But I'll fold 2 fights into 1 so the not carry stays relative to the carry. Yeah, Hangerman did not require the proccing of the infinity in the slightest. He didn't even get in range, so we're going to chalk that up to another not carry, and another not carry that's going to fall under this not carry is obviously Hanami. The moment that Hanami sensed that Satoru Gojo had arrived and saw that the curtain had dispelled, they realized with their little weedy behind that they were not, and I mean not, in the right situation or a safe situation, and they made like every other character in the series should have done the moment Gojo appeared and dipped. And even still, they caught a stray from a hollow perp that was launched from an extremely far distance away, which tore them apart. So Hanami was so afraid they literally ran. But once again, like I mentioned, there's no infinity there. Hanami doesn't even get close enough in range to deal with it. Hanami is smart enough to know that it does not want to get close enough in range to deal with the infinity. And thusly, it just dips, but Gojo still gets the dub with a hollow purple, which is not the infinity. So once again, I will chalk that up to 1 single not carry because the interactions are so short within themselves. I'm still a little bit unsure whether or not I should even include One Finger Sukuna, but if the Wiki's gonna do it, I'll do it. I'll throw it in there. The next major battle for Satoru Gojo is obviously the big one, the bad one, the legendary, insane in the membrane. Jogo, Hanami, Mahito, and Choso versus Gojo. And this is another case where Gojo's overwhelming power pretty much conveys why he's not being carried. He is the carry. So allow me to chalk this up to a full... no, don't you die on me. Okay, I was about to say. Let's chalk this up to another full, even 5 points in the definition of not carry. The reason I say this is so clearly not carry is because, well, you saw what they did, right? How they got a whole technique in order to bypass the neutral limitless. And I saw how it wasn't working. You can definitely argue maybe there's a bit of a hard carry there, but in terms of fighting execution and in terms of the level of danger he was in, not really. You can definitely tell he was mostly concerned for all the civilians there and did not want them getting hurt in the excess of their battle. And thusly, he was holding back. That led to the Unlimited Void, where he literally tore, 300 heads off? Back to back to back to back to back to back to back. So I don't think this counts as a carry either. You can definitely argue it may have been more difficult without the infinity. You can definitely argue he uses it in very unique ways, such as simply amplifying it to block Hanami and Jogo's punch, and obviously detonating Hanami against the wall by simply expanding his infinity barrier. But even with that being the case, considering it's clearly shown that none of the curses, not even Mahito, someone who is widely theorized to be the next Sukuna, could really stand up to him, it's clear that he did not need the infinity. He used it because it was fun for him. And because it's literally always on. There's no real reason to turn it off. And thusly, bada bing, bada boom. So, that's another fight that's chalked up to a not carry. And then, let's just say he got a little, it's a little bit tight in that box, isn't it? And not in the box that you may be thinking of, for those people who know when I say when I'm talking about the box. Yeah, the prison realm kind of locked Gojo up for a solid third of the narrative. He returned in 221. And unfortunately, I cannot count, or at least, maybe you can. I cannot, and I will not count Kenjaku being, oh wait, please, Gojo Daddy, don't give me the back shots like Jin did. Like, dog, I get it, but considering they don't even have one slight physical interaction, it feels wrong to call that a fight. It feels like all it would have taken was a quick rip of the weave right off of Geto's head, and bada bing, bada boom, all would have been well. However, for Uraume, I will count this as another not carry. Uraume and Gojo do actually have genuine interactions. So, that not carry right there is taking the lead by 2 whole points. Technically, it should be 7, but I'm letting it slide at 2. Then we have It's Uraume. All right, it's Uraume. It's literally Uraume. They get one tap. I don't think I don't think any of the Uraume fans out there, the delusional ones, myself included, because I am the most delusional Uraume fan, I don't think they're gonna be mad at this not carry. Because like, if you barely can, once again, it kind of falls under the thing where is it really valid to count as a fight? I mean, Uraume did get one tapped. That is just clear stale and stuff. That's clear scale and stuff. So I am ultimately going to chalk that up to, well, it'd be like that when it be like that, especially when it be like that. So that's going to be another L that's chalked up to the not carry. The final battle we need to talk about is let's just say, major one. Ryomen Sukuna in the body of Megumi Fushiguro versus Megumi. Why did I say Megumi? What the heck? Where did my brain go? Nah, Gojo versus Sukuna. Now, unfortunately, this one hurts me to do. This one does hurt me to do. But I am going to chalk this up to a carry. Pretty easy one at that, too. Notably, the moment the Infinity was no longer a factor that restrained Sukuna, Gojo dropped like a rock. It's as simple as that. They're really like there's no other way to put it. And don't get me wrong, throughout the battle, it doesn't look that way. You can clearly see there are times where if it was so easy to just bisect Gojo, then well, why didn't he do it when he was in his own domain, when Gojo's domain was shut down, all that other stuff, RCT recovery. There were so many times where Sukuna could have just been like, And if these slashes would have immediately torn through Gojo anyway, no matter what, you would have done that, especially in the domain, but they did not. And thusly, that leaves me 100% to believe that Gojo was unfortunately carried by the Infinity within the Sukuna fight. Because the moment he didn't have access to it anymore, he... Oh, wait, no, his eyes were open. So, yeah. And not looking good on that front. Don't get me wrong, I'm definitely going to make a video talking about Sukuna versus other versions of Gojo and other versions of Sukuna versus Gojo. Trust me, that video will be on the way. But at least, at bare minimum, for right now, the tally has been set, with Not Carry having a solid 1-point lead. But of course, this was just a quick, fun exercise, going through all of Gojo's battles, touching up on them real quick. If I missed any of them, please let me know in the comment section down below. But the thing that I wanted to say about Gojo and whether or not he's carried by the Infinity is that he literally isn't. I mean, he is, but he isn't, you know what I'm saying. Mainly because Satoru Gojo has such overwhelming raw power, such overwhelming raw stats, that outside of when he's literally a Omega fatigued teenager fighting a homeless man that studied him for who knows how long, ever since they met literally over a decade ago, and preparing with the intent to... I think it's not unreasonable to put a certain someone somewhere else. But with that, Satoru Gojo is so overwhelmingly powerful that a majority of his modern battles, while they are supplemented by the Infinity, they do not carry them. Jogo is supplemented by the Infinity. It's the main purpose, narratively, of that fight to explain the Infinity. Heck, the Disaster Curses in general, they are unable to surpass or bypass Infinity because Satoru Gojo is just too strong. The strength of Satoru Gojo is what bolsters the Infinity and makes the Infinity what it is, not just the Infinity bolstering and making the strength of Satoru Gojo. The two are in a symbiotic relationship, where ultimately Sukuna is not a... One figure Sukuna, at least, is not able to break through. Jogo's not able to break through. And Hanami and crew are not able to break through. That's because they simply lacked the specific skill set or the raw power. So, ultimately, I would have to say that Satoru Gojo is not carried by the Infinity once he gets to adulthood, for the most part. The only fight in his adulthood that really counts, because realize, nigh on all of these carries are from what? A pity one for the Jogo fight, and That's about it. I do believe it's entirely possible that Gojo Satoru was not carried by the Infinity. Rather, Satoru Gojo carried Infinity on his back. However, that's what I think. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you not miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month to get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Back on the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Wakanda Plays, Red Wolf 4765, and Burp Skills. I'd like to give another very big thank you to our $5 patrons, Sean, Midnight Gemlord, Kevin, and Demex LND. And I'd like to give a fat, hefty thank you to our $10 patrons, Robbie Uchiha, Joaquin, and Idemokami. And I'd like to give another hefty, nasty thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And another big fat scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our $25 patrons, Igneal and Calvin Elder.